Aloha, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in for another week of Trauma Recovery University. I'm your host, Athena Moberg, and your amazing co-host, Bobby Parrish, is in the green room with us. This week's topic is grieving, the grief work associated with recovery from trauma in your childhood associated with child abuse of any kind. We specifically love to talk to adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse. So if that is you, or if you're a survivor of any type of child abuse, welcome to our broadcast. We do this every single week. We have a live interactive broadcast where you can tweet us your questions by using the hashtag #NoMoreShame. You can go to our website, which is traumarecoveryuniversity.com, and you can watch and tweet there, just right there on our homepage. Right now, on this specific day, which is August 31st, 2015, our website is under construction. You can also go to nomoreshameproject.com, and you can watch and tweet live from our homepage there, and you'll always be able to do that as well on Mondays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So once again, this week's topic is grief and the grieving that goes along. What are things that we should be grieving? Is it like grieving a loved one? Are you grieving perhaps the relationship you wish you had with your abuser, whether the abuser was your parent or a sibling or an aunt or an uncle or a cousin? Are you grieving your innocence? Are you grieving the memories that you wish you could have made, or even just dinner time conversation around a dining room table with your family the way other people's families did that? There are so many different things we can be grieving, and every single one of them is important. So without further ado, I would like to go ahead and invite everyone that's listening in on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, or iHeartRadio, and remind you that this is a video broadcast. You can find us by going to our YouTube or our Roku TV channel by searching for Trauma Recovery University. Now, if you're on YouTube, you can just go youtube.com/Trauma Recovery University TV. If you have a Roku device on your television, you can just look for TRA, and we should pop up. We're the first one there under Trauma Recovery University. So head on over to Twitter, tweet us your questions using the hashtag #NoMoreShame. And we'll go ahead and start welcoming some of our live studio audience people that are tweeting in on Twitter. And I would love to invite Bobby to give us some updates on our annual anthology, perhaps just a little bit of a recap from our very, very, very huge live virtual summit this past weekend for narcissistic abuse, and any other announcements that we may have, perhaps reaching out to Rain if you're triggered. This is a trigger warning, by the way. But yeah, I would love to welcome Bobby to go ahead and just take it away, Bobby. I feel like I forgot a whole bunch of stuff this week.
It's okay. It's okay. This last weekend, we had our very first live virtual event about surviving narcissistic abuse. And we had a few technical problems because someone decided to hack our website, but we persevered and we were on the air for 5 hours, not only talking about narcissism and how it damages us and what it is, but how to prevent being in a relationship with another narcissist. And then we answered viewer questions, and we've gotten so many of them, and we ask that you please be patient with us as we try and answer them on the Facebook page. And so go to facebook.com/NarcDiaries. Is that it, Athena?
It is, Narc Diaries.
Great. Yes. And we'll be answering as many of the questions there as we can. Some of them are people just talking about their relationships and how awful they have been, and we certainly want to validate and acknowledge those too. So go on over to the webpage, and if you missed the event, but you want to still ask a question, feel free to post it there, and we'll get to it when we can and answer those questions. The event was, from what I have heard from everyone, and I've spoken to multiple people today who attended, it was a rousing success. A lot of thoughts prompted, a lot of light bulbs going off. a lot of understanding that people didn't have before they attended the event. And I think that's just fantastic. Tomorrow, we're going to be sending out a link to the event so that you can watch it. And for those of you who registered, you'll be able to watch the replay. We'll probably have it up live for another couple of weeks. And then we'll probably take it down and move it over onto our website. So we'll send out a link tomorrow to everyone who registered. If you still want to register and get your name on the email list so you can watch the replay, go over to my website. Boy, I can't even talk.
I think you're talking just fine. You sound awesome.
Over to www.bobbyparish.com, and up at the top you'll see Narcissistic Abuse Event. Just pop your name in there on the sign up, register for the event, and it'll get on our mailing list. But I will be sending the link out tomorrow, Tuesday, September 1st. Yay! To everyone. Now, we have talked with you previously about how on September 1st, Trauma Recovery University is going to a paid business model. But because our website got hacked and poor Athena has to handle so much of the backlog that happened with that and other things that she has to do, we're going to be with you later in the month with that model. So for now, we're just going to keep doing the things that we're doing, meaning that you'll be able to watch the free events, you'll be able to download the one page that we talk about, and you'll be able to watch all the videos on YouTube and Roku. So until we give you further notice that the new trauma recovery website is up and running and the new business model is in place, we're just going to keep doing the same thing that we've been doing. If you go over to NoMoreShameProject.com now and you click on the tab that says Pinnables, then you will find the No More Shame 15 button to put on your blog or use as your avatar. No More Shame November is coming up in a couple of months, and that's the month that we do a huge push for awareness of childhood abuse and the after effects on victims, and where we also do a huge push for advocacy for victims as they cope with all the things that we need to do to survive and have lives that are fulfilling and happy. So go on over to the website, NoMoreShameProject.com, and go to Pinnables and download that button there that Athena made that is so beautiful.
And I wanted to touch base regarding the button, guys. I've gotten several, not nastygram emails, but I know that the button's hard to read. I know it's hard to read because the little message is on the ribbon and all of that. The 2016 button is going to be way easier to read. I promise. I promise. I promise. I'm taking all the constructive criticism I can, which thank you for criticizing me in private and not in public. That was very nice of you. But I do hear you and I get it. And it will be much easier to read next year. I promise. Right now it's just pretty. It's hard to read, but it's pretty. But, you know, at least
pretty.
When people want to zoom in and look, then they go, oh, okay, and then they get it. So it'll be easier to read next year, I promise.
You know, I think sometimes people don't understand that it's just you and I doing everything.
Yeah, like we have this entire, I'll send that to the graphic artist department and oh, the websites are down. I'll just call the webmaster. I'll have him get the websites back up. Oh, wait, oh, that's me. Ah! I mean, come on, really? Oh my gosh, the nastygram emails that I received were like overwhelming. And thank you for all of your guys' sweet messages, like, screw those nastygram people, and thank you for being all mama bear on my behalf. That was so sweet of you guys because I needed the support. But man, I mean, we don't just call the webmaster. Like I'm kind of the webmaster, and we don't call the graphic artist department like I'm kind of the and we don't just call the copywriting department and tell them just type up the one page for next week and all the weeks after. Oh, for 52 more weeks. Yeah. Oh no, that would be Bobby. And yeah. And then the events, and then like, oh, let's try to coordinate travel, and let's try to coordinate venues, and Oh yeah, there's money. Money. Oh, we need money to do those things. I forgot. Okay, awesome. Yeah. So little facetious sarcasm going on there. I think some of you will rather enjoy that. So yeah. Oh, Matt, and I just wanted to say hello to Sarah and to Melissa and to Matt and to one of our new friends that he's actually welcomed a new friend. He says he's sharing the No More Shame Love. And I don't see Jack and Simi yet, but I want to
Beth is here.
Matt is here. I
And
see.
Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
And Melissa. And I feel like I'm missing some. Oh, and Beth is here. Hi, Beth.
Yes.
I already tweeted with Beth. But God, oh, and I can't tell if Susan is here or if she's just tweeting or if someone's retweeting her. And if you are watching Jack Anderson on Twitter, then I would like to welcome you and say thank you for coming. And if you have a topic that would be specifically valuable to you or helpful in your recovery journey, if you are in recovery for child abuse, then you can DM us and we'll never say it was you if you don't want us to, or you can just tweet it out and we'll add it to our editorial calendar. We have some very brave people that sent us some messages today about things to add to our editorial calendar. So thank you, by the way. For all of your bravery and all of your kindness. And thank you so much, Beth. Beth says the button's amazing. Thanks, Beth. I needed that, seriously. I mean, I know it's hard to read, but it's going to be better next year. Come December 1st, it will be a whole new button, and it will be easy to read. It's my goal. So I digress. I feel like I may be...
Go on over.
Yeah, go on over and download that damn button that's so hard to read. Would ya? Awesome. Thanks for the support. And blow it up really big so people can read it. Paste it as a whole page on your blog. So when someone pulls it up on their phone, if it's mobile friendly, the whole screen will be filled with the button and they'll be like, oh, this is such an easy to read button. Wow, I can't wait to share this. Okay, so again, I'm sorry for for ranting. I've had quite the emotional day. This topic of grieving, you guys, perfect segue. I want to address something super quick with our audience. I feel like I need to talk with my hands back here so you guys can like see what I'm talking about. So this, I feel like Chris Farley here, and then we're gonna go over here. Sorry. Okay. So this topic of grief, Bobby and I often talk about how our abuse and the different pieces of our abuse is like baklava, which is like millions of layers of phyllo dough mixed up, all mashed up with a whole big pile of spaghetti. And you're trying to like pull it all apart and trying to like, there's nothing really left of it that you can even really look at or touch that isn't a complete mess. So when you add like grief on top of all of the pieces that you're trying to work through and move forward in and recover through, it's so messy and it's so emotional and it literally colors your whole world and affects everything that you're dealing with. So for instance, I'm going to give you guys an example of something that is grief related, okay? And if this is you and maybe whatever, then let us know. Tweet it out, send us a message, something. This is for you guys, okay? So I began grieving and working through some of my childhood abuse issues and after effects and poor relationship choices, difficulty handling finances or making good decisions or impulse control or didn't really know how to like choose healthy foods or didn't know the importance of that. And none of the people in my family ever exercised. Like there was never like, let's go to the gym. Like there was no exercise. Like no one, not one person I knew in my entire family to this day, except for my two cousins that are adopted, are people that so again, not blood related. They work out and they take care of themselves. They take care of their bodies. But that was not something that was modeled for me. So I didn't know the importance of recreation. What's recreation? My husband is like a recreation freak. He's so good at it. He's like, I'm going to go for a swim and then I'm going to go play a couple sets of tennis and I'm going to go golfing later. And I'm like, okay, that sounds exhausting. Like, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. And I think I'm just going to read a book because I know how to do that. So when you have all these different things, like for instance, when you go to someone's house, you are an adult, you're working through your grief of your child abuse. You go to somebody's house and they're preparing this amazing meal, and you begin to realize, gosh, I wish somebody would have taught me how to cook so that I could make awesome stuff instead of showing up with bread or flowers or a bottle of wine or boxed cookies or a tray of vegetables that the grocery store made or something, because no one ever taught you to cook. No one taught you to bake. No one taught you that you should maybe go to the gym. So therefore, maybe you're overweight. You didn't even know that fast food was bad for you because that's all you were ever given, unless it was food that was at the house that was spoiled or from the sale rack and it was disgusting. I mean, these are all things that probably should be grieved, guys, because guess what? The definition of grief and grieving is the definition of something you could grieve is anything you wish would have been different. You wish the relationship would have been different. You wish your childhood would have been different. You wish you would have learned how to bake. You wish you could have been a Girl Scout. You wish you could have been a Boy Scout. You wish your parents would have went to parent-teacher night. You wish they would have showed up at your band and choir concerts to cheer you on. You wish that you would have been given the opportunity to play sports in school and have them cheering you on and holding up a sign with your name on it like other parents did. You wish that they held your hand and you went trick-or-treating and like did fun things, or how like moms and dads like hold their kids' hand and then like twirl them and pick them up and then set them back down, and like maybe you never experienced that because I didn't, and I'm grieving that, and it's quite painful. And when these things come up, you don't even know they're coming up. Like my things started coming up just in little things. Like I got invited to functions and all this stuff started coming up, you guys. It's messy, messy, messy. You go to a job and you don't even know how you're supposed to act or how you're supposed to talk, because you were not raised by parents that perhaps held down a steady job or worked in a corporate environment or taught you proper grammar or etiquette or business acumen. I had to reparent myself and learn all these things on my own. So if that's you, you're at the right broadcast. And until I take over the whole broadcast, and to prevent me from doing that, I'm going to step down off my soapbox and hand it over to Bobbi now, where she can maybe talk about something else. But I'm telling you guys, if you're here and you're struggling and you're frustrated and you're pissed off or you're sad or these things make you cry or you wish that you didn't have your innocence robbed from you or that you weren't beaten every day after school or that you weren't burned with hot cigarettes because your parents were crazy, like, then you're in the right place and you are welcome here. And Bobbi, I'm sure you have a lot to say on this topic, so I hope I didn't lose any viewers.
No, I think that this is one of the things that pains me the most about trauma recovery is the lack of education that we as survivors get about trauma and abuse and how it affects us and what the recovery process is going to be like. I think we're very seldom told that grief is a part of our recovery. And we're also very seldom told that it's okay for us to grieve the losses of things that we never even had, right? Because most often we're taught that you grieve when you lose something. Okay, so like your father dies, you grieve. You lose a job, you grieve. Your marriage breaks up, you get a divorce, you grieve. But for survivors, we're grieving things sometimes that never came into fruition. We didn't lose them because we never had them. We grieve the fact, like I said, that we lost our childhood innocence, that our childhoods were not about, playing with the neighbors and carefree afternoons of, playing Barbie dolls. It's okay to grieve that. Even though you didn't have it, it's a loss. We grieve the fact that we never had the father or the mother or the sibling that we wanted and that we deserved. I think that's an important part about grief and acknowledging your losses, is that you deserved that. Every child deserves to have parents that love and adore them, that care for them, protect them, go backpack shopping with them when it's time for back to school, go lunchbox shopping, all the things. Those are all something that you deserved, but you didn't get. And so it's more than okay to grieve those. In fact, I think sometimes when we don't grieve them, it sets our recovery into a stall motion. You know, we have to acknowledge those losses and move on, even if it's a really egregious loss. This morning during chat, for those of you who are new to our broadcast, we have 3 Twitter chats a week. The first one is on Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and that's at 6 p.m. in the UK. And that's why we started that chat, was in order to reach our UK audience, because the original chat that we do on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. is at 2 in the morning for all the stalwart UK people. So we were missing quite a bit of our audience. So we started the one on Monday morning. And then the third one is here tonight that you're at, because we live tweet during this event. This morning we were talking about grief, and we got into talking about the intangibles, you know, that we grieve. And someone said something about, I missed the fact that I never could talk about with my friends what it was like to get my first kiss, or what it was like the first time you went all the way, you know. And I could identify with that, you know, when I got into college and people started talking about things like that, and they'd look at me and they'd be, you know, well, you know, when was the first time that you kissed a boy? And nobody wants to hear you say, when I was 3. Nobody wants to hear that. They don't want to hear your child abuse story right then. So you keep your mouth shut and you say something else. Oh, when I was 10, I kissed my cousin. Yeah, that's it. I kissed my cousin. You lose moments like that everybody else got to have, and it was nostalgic and it was sweet, but it was taken away from you. And it's an everyday moment that we kind of put in the scrapbook of our life that is so ugly for us, it just doesn't go in the scrapbook. So here's us telling you that, yes, it is okay to acknowledge not only the things that you had and lost, but the things that you didn't get to have because you didn't get the appropriate love and attention and care that you needed. And it is okay to grieve those things. It's okay to work through the whole darn grief cycle about those things. And we're even going to tell you that if you don't, your recovery is going to be harder. So we're here to give you full-blown permission to grieve all your losses, every single one. Name every single one of them. Get out a piece of paper and write them down from the top to the bottom of the page.
I want to hold a grief call. I felt like today, I feel like Sarah and I, hi Sarah, my sister. I feel like Sarah and I sat together in a room today and went down my list of little pieces of paper that I had written down all of my wishes, hopes, and dreams that I never got. And I read each and every one of them. And she sat there with me the entire time. And every now and again, if you search the CSAQT Twitter stream, you guys, or if you search for the words, things I'm choosing to grieve as a result of my childhood sexual abuse or something on Twitter, you will see dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people, myself and others, listing the things that they're grieving as a result of their childhood sexual abuse. And bless Sarah's heart.
Athena, will you?
Huh?
Oh, she said. Oh. Will you just address really quick why you chose the word? Here I am parroting you. I'm sorry. Why did you choose to use the words "I am choosing to grieve"? Because they were powerful. And to talk just for a minute about why you chose to those.
Okay.
And talk about Sarah.
Okay. So real quick, Sarah, bless her heart, sat there with me as I tweeted for over an hour, you guys. I just got it all out. And even Jack and Simi and everybody were like, I can feel the intensity. Keep going. You're on a roll. Like Colin's like, what a list. Oh my gosh, what's going on? But I just wouldn't stop, you guys. I had a lot of grief in me, a lot of things in me. And I'm going to Bobby's point, and to answer her question, I am very, if you know me even for just a little while, you know that I'm really, 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 really big on choices. I feel like we are all makers of choices. You choose every single day if you're going to love someone, if you're going to be kind. You choose every single day what you're going to eat. Are you going to get out of bed? You choose, are you going to forgive, or are you going to hold on to bitterness and allow it to kill you? You're choosing. So the reason I chose the words, these are the things I'm choosing to grieve as a result of my childhood sexual abuse. Or I forget the exact terminology or the exact, I should try to find one of my tweets, but I think I said something I'm choosing to grieve as a result of my childhood sexual abuse is, and then I just kept listing things, a lot of the things that I already mentioned. And the reason that I use those words, you guys, is because grieving doesn't happen on accident. You are not going to be cruising along your life. Hey, got to go to the grocery store today. Hey, got to go to work today. Oh yeah, Friday, that's grief day. Yeah, I'll put it all off for Friday. Friday, I'm going to handle all my grief. And that's just not how grief work works, guys. Grief builds up and piles up on top of one another, and it all touches, and it's all messy, and it's overwhelming, and it gets stuck all over you, and you can't wash it off, and you can't get it off, and you can't work through it. And it's heavy, and it's debilitating, and it can cause cancer, it can cause the flu, it can cause you to get strep throat, it can cause you to have lots of different things. It can manifest itself in physical ways in your body if you do not process it, because it will literally make you ill. I mean, if you look at the word disease, it's actually dis-ease. You are not at ease. And if you're in the middle of grieving something, or you have all these things pent up inside of you, you are not at ease. You are at dis-ease, and it's going to cause you to be sick. So what I was going to say before I went off on this rant right now, and I want to make a comment really quick. Someone tweeted in that they don't want to like dwell on things, etc., or I think it was worship, old dreams and so forth. And that is definitely fine. I don't want to confuse the word grieving with holding on and dwelling. It's actually a letting go. You're letting go. And if there's nothing to let go of, then awesome, super fantastic. Spick and span, you're done. There's nothing to grieve. Sweet. But I personally have a lot to grieve. I've been holding on to a lot. Been holding on to a lot of wishes. I sure wish I would have had a normal relationship with my family. I sure wish I would have went to a daddy-daughter dance. I sure wish I would have had like my mom do my hair on my wedding day and tell me how beautiful I was. Or I wished all these things, you guys. I really wished them. And what I was going to say was, I think I want to hold a grief call. Because guess what? As people were tweeting into me and they were responding to my list of over an hour of me telling you what I was choosing to grieve, the things that I lost. I lost my innocence. I don't ever remember being a virgin. I remember being beaten with fly swatters and belt buckles and hairbrushes, and I was traded and lent out to people, and there was a lack of love in my home. To say the least. That is like the understatement of the freaking universe, of the year, of the century, okay? Now, for me to just not let that go and not say, gosh, that kind of stunk. I really wished it would have been different. It would be me lying. I'm just holding in a lie. It's a lie of omission. I'm omitting the facts. And as people started tweeting in and they would saying, you know what, this is what I'm grieving. I'm grieving this, Athena. And my response, 100% of the time, if I could have the time to do it all, I hope I didn't miss anybody, was, I'm grieving that with you. That is a loss. And I grieve that with you. And the most powerful thing was, Sarah sat there with me the whole time and held my hand as I grieved. And I'm telling you, you guys, if I decide to do a grief call, I'll post it up everywhere so you all can come, and it'll just be a number that you dial in, and everybody can have a chance to talk, and they can say, I grieve this. It'll be planned communication. It'll be organized, fill in the blank communication. Not, hey, there was this one time and it's a 37-minute conversation that you're having with everybody. No, we're going to be respectful of everybody on the call, and it'll go around robin. I would like to grieve this. And then we would, and I'm sure everybody else would say, We grieve that with you. That is definitely a loss. I grieve that with you. That is a deep loss. And just to be acknowledged, you guys, just to acknowledge
Well, I think
these
it goes back
things.
to that validation piece that we've talked
Yes,
about before, when we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, is that it's important for us to feel a sense of validation for what we're thinking and feeling. Normally, kiddos get that when they're young, and they
yeah,
learn, they're given that validation, and then from that, they learn how to validate things for themselves. But because we weren't given the gift of validation in our upbringing, many of us were not, some of us were, then we don't learn how to do it for ourselves. And so we learn as adults by getting validation from other people, and we go, oh, that's what that is. I get it now. I can do that. So important. And you deserve it.
yeah. Thank you. Well, and again, like you said, validation, Bobby. That's exactly what I was trying to say when I was saying acknowledgement. Like, just to have someone, like, I always have a hair in my mouth whenever I talk to you guys on camera. I'm so sorry. Just to have someone, Sarah, who sat with me the whole time, just to have her, and here she is. She's in UK, and she sat there with me the whole time. You guys, she spent her evening with me, and to have her acknowledge my pain and acknowledge my loss, it was like she was silently just holding a safe space for me. She was holding this safe space for me to just be not okay. And it was okay that I wasn't okay. Because guess what? I don't have to be okay all the time. I just don't. No one does. You all do not have to
Right.
be okay.
None of us do. Nope.
Yeah. And Bobby and I are going to continue to tell you it's okay to not be okay. It is being okay all the time, 100% of the time. Not only is it a lie, but it's exhausting. Not everyone, and not anyone in the whole wide world is okay all the time. Everybody has bad days, guys. It's not just survivors. It's everyone. Everyone has a rough day at work sometimes, or gets the flu, or falls down the stairs, or breaks their high heel, or goes to use their ATM card and finds out that there's not enough money in there, or goes to the gas pump and then leaves their purse on the thing and then has their identity stolen. Every single person goes to the grocery store and then somehow gets their dress caught in the wheels when you're pushing the grocery cart. Every single person gets rear-ended at some point on the freeway, or gets sideswiped, or has something bad happen to their car and a shopping cart's banned against it. Every single person in the whole wide world experiences, oh, I forgot my lunch money. Oh my gosh, I forgot my kid's baseball equipment and for his practice this afternoon. I'm such a loser mom. Oh my gosh. Every single person in the world experiences some sort of like, oh, dang it, that stinks. When you add on top of that you never had a childhood, or you didn't have a relationship with your mother or your father or your grandmother or your grandfather or your aunt or your uncle or your cousins or your neighbors, or you didn't have any friends because maybe your house was filled with drugs or abuse or violence or just overall dysfunction, when you add that on top of normal things like breaking your high heel or swiping your ATM card and there's no money in there, you really just feel like melting down. And I'm here to tell you that it's okay to melt down, because crumbling and being crumbly, some days are more crumbly than others. Yesterday was a very crumbly day for me because I was so heartbroken about being hacked. But I think I fixed it this time, and even though I'm angry with my people, my server people, at least I feel like I handled it all. But yeah, we just want to acknowledge you. We want to acknowledge you and validate the fact that you are going through some stuff. Not normal stuff, like, oh, darn, it's raining outside. I just messed up my dress. But like heavy stuff, like, yeah, oh, I was beaten with a curtain rod when I was a kid by my dad instead of him holding my hand while I crossed the street. That's some heavy stuff, you guys. Acknowledge yourself. Acknowledge all of us, everyone around us. Picture us all standing in a circle, every single one of us taking turns and saying, I'm grieving that I never was taught how to cook a really nice meal for my husband someday. Well, I'm grieving the fact that I never got to be a Girl Scout. Well, I'm grieving the fact that my father never took me camping. Well, I'm grieving the fact that my parents didn't even want me. They told me I was supposed to be aborted. Well, I'm grieving the fact that I never had a relationship with any of my cousins because my families were all dysfunctional and they didn't get along. There's so much to grieve, guys. I want to acknowledge you and validate every single thing in the whole wide world that you're upset about and that you wish would have been different. If you wish anything in the whole wide world would have been different because of your child abuse, I want to acknowledge it. I want to validate it. I want to tell you passionately and with everything that I am that you matter. And it's okay if you struggle sometimes. Seriously, this is big, big stuff. And the more we give ourselves permission to just lay it out there and say, you know what, it doesn't make me a weak person to wish it would have been different. Yeah, I wish I wouldn't have been molested for half of my life. That would have been kind of cool if that didn't happen. I grieve that with you. I grieve it with you because you should never have been molested. You should have been loved and tucked in at night and had the covers pulled up and maybe had someone read you a book or like one of those little lights that had the little music or something like that. That's what you deserve. You didn't deserve to be molested. So I grieve that with you.
So you aren't alone. None of you are alone for all the things that you feel. Believe me, if it's not something that Athena and I have gone through, it is something that someone in the 15,000 people who follow our Twitter chats and follow our Facebook support groups and follow our YouTube videos has felt and has experienced. So more than anything, if you are grieving some of these experiences, we do want you to know that you're not alone. And we are here tonight to talk with you about grief and about how grief is a pretty necessary part of the recovery process, how grief works, and how you can help yourself through the grief process and come out the other side a better person and farther along in your recovery. So I'm going to put the one page up. Now we have a one page that we do for each video, and they're just one page, a synopsis of information and tips about every topic that we talk about. And the reason we put them together is so that you, the survivor, can have a short piece of information to read and to act on when you encounter that particular topic in your life. We have, I think, 52 of them, 53 of them now up on our website. Print them out, make a binder. Go to nomoreshameproject.com and there's a tab that says downloadables. Click on that, pop in your email address, and you will have access to all of our downloadable one pages for all the topics that we've done, from everything from faith to forgiveness to coping with medical exams to hygiene, when your abuser dies, dealing with your family, when the person who abused you denies your abuse, everything that you can possibly think of, PTSD, hypervigilance. So go on over there, download what you think would be helpful to you so that you will have it at your fingertips when you need it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up the one page.
Hey, Bobby, while you put up the one page, can I talk to you? Ooh, by the way, can I pour myself a glass of wine and sit and we can have a glass of wine together, since you have a glass of wine behind you, and we can sit and talk after the broadcast?
I hope so.
That would be awesome. Okay, so what I wanted to mention while you're pulling up the one page is I had someone request the topic of, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it now. Well, there were several, but one of the topics was if you are sexually abused and you become pregnant by your abuser, to discuss how to perhaps handle that emotionally, the different options that are given to you. Are you alone? How many people out there did this happen with, et cetera, et cetera. Perhaps we could talk about that. There was also someone that requested the topic of, oh my gosh, I'm completely blanking right now. What did he say? You were saying something a moment ago, Bobby, and it was something
about
that
one page is about medical examinations, hypervigilance, PTSD, faith, forgiveness.
Gosh, I'll remember it, you guys, but I just wanted to remind you that we do take all of your requests and we add them. If we can think that we can possibly handle the conversation and the topic, then we will bring it to a Monday Q&A like this, hashtag no more shame, and then we can answer your questions live here. So send us your topics that you would like.
Yes, absolutely. And really quick, even though I look like a page rather than me, I know Tiffany is watching this, so I want to say hi to Tiffany and Squirt and Baby, who are
Hi!
her two doggies that are with her.
Oh, hi, Tiffany.
I love seeing Tiffany's dog, so hi, guys. Let's go and look at the one page, and some of this information we've already covered, and some of, whoops, let's go to the top. Grief work in recovery. That survivors have many things to cope with in recovery. Even though we're rarely told about it, grief work is one of the elements of our healing. We experience many losses during our childhood. Our innocence, if one of our abusers was our abuser, we lost the kind of parent we deserved and needed. We may have lost our family's support if we told our story. We may have lost relationships in adulthood due to our abuse. You know, we've talked before about re-victimization and about how if we don't feel we deserve better, or if we're so used to dysfunctional relationships, we may grow up as an adult, choose to engage in a dysfunctional relationship. Sometimes we choose to engage in a whole series of dysfunctional relationships. And that right there is loss, because you have to grieve the loss of each one of those relationships. Losses as a whole are woven through so much of our life. And if we don't acknowledge and grieve those losses, if they are a loss to you, some of these things may not feel like a loss, and that's fine. But if it is something that you have a longing for, or you have, you know, when I was a child, I used to spend so much time in my head. I could sit on my bed for like 3 or 4 hours running through fantasies in my head of what it would be like if my family was like this, or I was, you know, really and truly loved. So if it's something that you've spent time, emotional time invested in, then it might very well be a loss that you want to grieve. And if you don't acknowledge those losses, then they can interfere with your healing process. So grief recovery is usually broken down into 5 stages, and these 5 stages are according to the very well-known grief researcher, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And the first stage, and keeping in mind that these are not, this is not the route you have to go. This is just the most common way that people process losses and grief. And the first stage is denial. And denial is a coping mechanism we use to keep ourselves numb to the pain of our loss. As long as we are in denial, we don't have to face or acknowledge what we lost. We have talked about denial so many times, especially when it comes to our families acknowledging our abuse. We've talked about how our families like to be in denial because it protects them from having to acknowledge that there is an abuser in their midst. Or it protects them from having to acknowledge that perhaps they looked the other way rather than stopping our abuse. So denial is a very, very powerful process, a powerful coping mechanism, and it does stop the loss from being processed when we stay in denial. And the next stage is anger. Anger is another coping mechanism that helps us keep our pain at bay, but it does also have a purpose, okay, and a healthy purpose, because denial is a coping mechanism that doesn't always have a healthy purpose, but anger can have a healthy purpose to it. Righteous anger. And I want to take just a minute and talk about the difference between unhealthy anger and righteous anger. And this came up in our abuse summit on Saturday. An unhealthy anger is the anger that you feel when someone didn't do what you wanted them to do. Okay, so and it isn't something that's a normal expectation. So say I come home and I had really hoped, even though I didn't ask him to, or it wasn't, it wasn't a realistic expectation, I hoped that my son would have made dinner. And I come home and he didn't. And so I get angry. Well, that's not right, because I didn't let him know that I had that expectation, and he doesn't usually fix dinner, so there's no healthy reason for me to be angry with him. But if I am a child who is molested, and I'm angry about it, that's a righteous anger. You have a right to be angry about being abused. That is very much a righteous anger. Righteous anger about our losses is appropriate and healthy. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with survivors who were raised with the belief that no anger is ever healthy or appropriate, and that's just wrong. Righteous anger is healthy and appropriate. It's not healthy and appropriate to take that anger and, go with a baseball bat and start breaking windows in the house. No, of course not. But just the feeling of that anger and finding a way to express it that is safe and healthy, both very good choices. It's powerful, and it moves us through the grief process. So the next stage is bargaining. This is the stage where we've accepted that we have had a loss, but rather than processing our grief, we're stuck in a cycle of what ifs and if only. More often than not, you hear this described in the terms of a loss of another human being. If only I had taken Joe to the doctor earlier, we could have caught the cancer. If only we'd been able to get into that drug trial, he would have lived longer. If only I had not gone to that party, I would have been home when the burglar broke in and, murdered Sam, and I could have done something about it. For us who went through abuse, we think if only I'd fought back, it would have stopped. If only I hadn't married that person, they would not have been violent against me as an abuser. And we take on that blame, and we take on responsibility. That's what ifs and if onlys are about. They're about trying to see if maybe we could shift the blame a little bit. We could take responsibility and the loss would be gone. But the reality is that's not true. Depression is the next step. When we've stopped denying, being angry, and bargaining, we're left facing our pain, which often leads to depression. Okay, now we're not talking the same thing as a clinical depression here. We're talking about depression that is a normal part of the grief process. Okay, that sadness, that loss, that sense of feeling despair, facing that huge loss can take us to a place of depression. But when we move through that, then we come to the stage of acceptance. And this is the stage where we accept rather than fighting against our loss. It doesn't mean it didn't hurt, or that grief as a chapter is closed like the chapter in a book. It doesn't mean we don't think about it anymore. It doesn't mean that we don't miss that person. It just means that we have processed through our grief. Now, keep in mind that grief recovery is like trauma recovery. It's not linear. It's not like on week 1, we start on denial. Week 2, we go to anger and then bargaining and depression. Nope. You can ping pong back and forth. And you can even have one foot in bargaining while you have another foot in depression. Or you can be in depression and then the next day move all the way back to anger. Unfortunately, sometimes it's unpredictable, and it can be very cyclic, like trauma recovery can. And there are triggers. just like there are in trauma recovery, right? You're going along, you're doing fine, you're having a good day, and then you smack up against someone who looks just like the person who you've lost, the person who died 2 months ago. And then all of a sudden the grief is raining down on top of you all over again.
Oh my gosh. I had someone come up to me and show me a newspaper a couple weeks ago. Look, doesn't this guy look just like your dad?
Yeah.
And I sort of spoke before thinking, and I said, wow, thanks for showing me a picture of my dead father, even though it's not him, but thanks so much. That was awesome of you. I was not very kind. Sorry, I just wasn't. It's hard enough grieving the loss of someone, and then to have somebody go, doesn't this guy in this picture in the newspaper look just like your dad? And it's not that this person didn't know my dad died. Like, hello, this person knows me very well. So anyway, yeah.
They were hoping that it would be helpful to you, but it really wasn't.
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah.
Don't know how that could have been helpful.
Let's see. Okay. There we go. Grief work like trauma recovery can be more complex, made more complex by the circumstances of loss, and this can cause us to have complicated grief. And I am just in love with Brenda for bringing up complicated grief this morning in chat and talking about this complicated grief, how it's not the quote unquote normal grief that we go through. And I asked her, what's an example of complicated grief? And she said an example of complicated grief would be if your brother is murdered. So not only do we have to deal with the fact that our brother died, but we have to deal with the fact that he died at someone else's hands. So that's complicated grief. And for most of us, when our abuser dies, that would be a complicated grief. So not only are we, faced with the loss of our grandfather, but we also have to face the fact that our grandfather was our abuser. And complicated grief can be much harder and much more complex to move through than just, and I hate saying regular grief, but at the tip of my tongue, I can't think of another way to put it right now. And then the next statement there is grief work is not linear. We can ping pong back and forth between stages or even be two of them at once. Like trauma recovery, grief recovery can be a spiral that we move up and down through. Okay, let's talk about tips and strategies for healthy grief work. And the first one, take your time. Don't feel like there's not a set timetable for how long it takes to grieve something or someone. They're just not. It is your time. Whatever is the healthiest and the best way for you to move through your grief work is the best way for it to happen. So I would really encourage you not to rush it, because when you rush that process, then you may find yourself having to go right back through it and hit some of the things that you missed the first time. Practice excellent self-care and be very gentle with yourself. Please be very gentle with yourself as you're grieving. Things can sneak up on you, like seeing the person in the grocery store, or when someone makes a comment to you which they think would be helpful, but which actually causes you pain. Sometimes we as human beings do not know what to do in the face of someone else's pain, and we make mistakes. And that can genuinely be hurtful. And so we have to do for ourselves sometimes what we wish other people would do, and give ourselves the understanding and the time and the gentleness that we need. When you're in grief recovery, moving deeper into your support community in order to get greater support and encouragement is often what you need to do. And it's more than okay to show up in your support community and go, you know what, you guys, today I just got hit with a full force of the fact that I never had the mother that I craved having. And instead, I got a woman who abused me and yelled at me and said I would never be good enough. And I'm really mourning that fact today. And I know that your community would step up to provide you with even greater support and help. And then to recognize, this is the last one, sorry. The next one is utilize expressive therapies during times of grief. Expressive therapies can be fantastic ways to express our grief, because sometimes the pain and the anger of a loss is just more than we can put into words. But we can put it into an expressive therapy like art, movement, music, and art therapies. Sometimes movement therapy can be very helpful for us as survivors because we do tend to store a lot of our feelings in our bodies. So the last one is to recognize that grief over an intangible loss. Okay, and this is what I talked about earlier in terms of, the death of a loved one is a very tangible thing. But sometimes we grieve the things like the loss of our childhood innocence, and that is more of an intangible thing. But they can be just as deep and difficult as the loss of a loved one. So we have to go ahead and acknowledge that for ourselves and give ourselves the time and the peace of mind to work through that. There we go.
Yay.
Yay. What do you think, Ms. Athena?
Well, I just love the one page, and I love just the acknowledgement and the validation that is found there. Not everyone is ready. Not everyone is ever. It is okay if you're not ever going to be ready to grieve things, you guys. It can take a lifetime. I mean, I have a very dear friend of mine who lost their mom like 15 years ago and literally still cries every day after 15 years at the loss of her mother. And that's okay. That's her deal. She's the one that's grieving. It's her loss. I simply just hold a space for her and tell her that I'm sorry that she's hurting, and is there anything I can do? Sometimes the best thing to do is just to say, is there anything I can do? Or I'm here if you want to talk, I'm here to listen. I'll be here for you.
Yeah.
I like the validation and affirmation and an acknowledgement that comes in our one page regarding this topic.
Okay. Should we talk about how to connect with us?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's talk about connection. Okay.
It's a tough week, Bobby.
It has been a week, has it not?
Well, this is a tough topic, I think. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a tough topic.
Oops, that's not what I wanted. Wrong thing.
That's okay. These are the best ways to connect with us, you guys.
There we go. Okay. If you want to connect with us, the best ways, first of all, through email. I'm BobbyLParish@gmail.com. Athena is Athena at AthenaMoberg.com. And then we have the No More Shame Project at gmail.com. On Twitter, I am Bobby L. Parish. Athena is Athena Moberg. And then Trauma Recovery University is Trauma Recovery U. And I'm reading this out loud for all the people who are listening to us on a podcast. So don't think that I'm assuming that you all can't read this. I'm
grateful that you're reading it all out loud, because there could be people that are driving right now and they're listening, and we don't want them to get into an accident or something trying to figure out, like, they have this topic that they want us to discuss, and then they're trying to write everything down. And you can always friend us on Facebook, you guys.
Yes.
Friend us on Facebook. Bobby's at facebook.com/Bobby Parish, and I'm at facebook.com/Dawn, DAWN, Athena Moberg. Someone else there's this gal that lives in San Diego, I think, and her name's Athena Moberg.
Oh, okay.
So my Facebook and my Pinterest, apparently those are her hangout spots, because the Pinterest and Facebook of Athena Moberg were taken. So
How about that?
I know, right?
Right. And you'd think that's such an uncommon name, you know?
I know I've never met another Athena Moberg, but I can't wait to meet her someday. I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully, I'll be in the San Diego area sometime. But yeah, send your topics to us, you guys. Email us the topics that you need us to address. I'm still trying to remember the topic that gentleman wanted me to. Oh, I think it was anger. But we already
did
did
anger.
We did
Yeah.
anger. Gosh, what was it? Was it resentment or unforgiveness, or gosh, it was on the topic of something like holding on to something that was making him sick or whatever.
Okay.
And like how to like release that or something.
Okay.
Gosh, I can't remember the word now. It's driving me crazy.
Oh.
So I'm gonna remember it at 3 a.m.
You can also find us on YouTube. We have, I believe, 59 videos on YouTube now, and just search for Trauma Recovery University. We are on Roku TV on our Trauma Recovery University channel, and we are on Google Plus at Trauma Recovery University. And then you can watch us live every Monday night at the bit.ly link, bit.ly/trauma recovery U. And let's see here. Now we will stop.
Hey, Bobby.
Huh.
So, you know how normally when we welcome everyone and we let them know that as a thank you for being one of our subscribers, listeners, or viewers, we would like to give them complimentary access to our one-page downloadable resource, and they can get it by going to our website and clicking on the downloadable tab and then downloading it. Are we going to be, I'm trying to figure out how it is that we are going to be switching that when we do our paid model. I think we discussed maybe doing like a different button, like if you're a member, click here, and if you're not a member, click here. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So when you watch these broadcasts and you're not a member, like let's say this is the first time you're ever even seeing us, and you go to the website and you're like, wait a second, I thought it was a free access. I thought that's what they said. And all you need to do is just click if you're a member, if you're not a member, moving forward into our paid membership program, because we've been doing this for free for a year, you guys, and we realize that our audience has grown and exponentially, and there is a tremendous need, and we can literally not work full-time jobs and do what we've been doing for you guys without charging you. So sorry, but so what we're going to do is we're going to you can have just a one-time deal where you're like, yes, this is the topic that I need, and so I'm going to pay to download this one-page downloadable resource. Awesome, that's what I want. I just need this one thing. I don't need to be a member. I don't need all your videos and all your personality and all your stuff. I just want this one deal. This is all I want because it's valuable to me. Boom, you download it. It's yours. You don't even have to ever come back. But if you find yourself, tuning in and watching, and you're like, wow, I really like the way I'm learning and I'm in community with others, and this has been very helpful for me, then it would make more sense for you to be a member. And if you have been with us for any amount of time prior to September 1st, 2015, then you don't ever have to pay ever, because you're just being grandfathered in, and it'll always be for free forever. So there's one more day left. It's August 31st, 2015 today. And if you know anyone that could benefit from these resources, then let them know and have them sign up for our email list before tomorrow, September 1st, 2015, so that they can get it for free. Oh, you hit the mute button, Bobby. You hit the mute button. No. You hit the mute button. You're mute. Uh-oh, you're gone. You're gone completely. Uh-oh. Okay. Well, Bobby is still here, but for some reason, I don't know what's happening. She's not popping up. And the sound isn't working. So we love to come to you every single week, Bobby Parrish and myself, Athena Moberg, and we love showing up every week and giving you everything you need for healthy, informed trauma recovery. And this week's topic is grief, and I'm not sure what next week's topic is going to be yet, but just take a look on Facebook or on Twitter, or send us an email if you're curious. And until next week, we'll see you next time. We hope you guys have a great week. Aloha.